Okay, so today's video, I'm going to be talking about public school, private school, and homeschooling. I did a video a couple years ago talking about about this issue, and it was a hot topic. And I don't mean this video to be a hot topic. I really truly just want this to be a community page where we help each other in the comments, like try to figure out what's best for our children, our family. I used to think that public school were completely fine and okay. About 2 years ago, I did a video on it. I have taken that video down because my views have changed so drastically since putting up that video. And I'm gonna talk about that in my video today, like what changed my mind about public schools. If you're new here, please subscribe down below. I would love to have you a part of this community. Okay, so I want to start off by saying, if you do leave a comment, please be very kind and nice. This is all of us who's watching this. We are trying to get our children to heaven. We want to do what's best for our children. And I know that not every family can financially afford private school, or maybe you don't have a time where you can homeschool. I know every family unit is different, and you have to figure out what works for your family. So this isn't, please don't come on here and bash one thing or the other. I'm just giving my opinion, and you're welcome to give yours, but please be kind about it, all right? Okay, so I want to start off by saying that my husband and I both went to public school, and we both got a really good education, totally fine. My husband was like in advanced classes in Virginia Beach at the time, and he was in all the advanced classes. He ended up going to Notre Dame, and it definitely prepared him for college. So, and I, you know, both of us had this thing of like, we were brought up Catholic, like we turned out fine, like our kids are gonna be fine too. But then fast forward 25 years, right? A lot has happened in 25 years. A lot has happened in the school system specifically in 25 years. And so that's what I'm gonna talk about, because I think all of us, like especially new mothers like me, we're all kind of trying to navigate like, okay, is private school, public school, homeschooling, what is best for our children? So if you do homeschool, please write your favorite curriculum down below for those who are thinking about homeschooling, or you know, maybe changing curriculums and all of that. Okay, so I want to say that before my husband and I got married, when we knew we were going to have children, we both thought for sure our children would go into public school. Like it was kind of a no-brainer for both of us. We did discuss it, and we just thought, like, I knew too many Catholics who went to private school, and by the time they were done with the Catholic education system, they were done being Catholic. They no longer followed Catholicism. They were actually anti-Catholic. I knew way too many stories like that. And so I'm like, what is the point of sending your children to Catholic school if they're not even gonna get a Catholic education, right? Because a lot of people now just send their children to Catholic school because they get more attention, the curriculum's usually harder, they get more, you know, the parents have more say in Catholic schools, which they do because they're paying for it. Okay, so what changed my mind on everything was when we moved last year. So we were in North Carolina, and our children went to school there, and it was phenomenal. Okay, so they were in kindergarten and first grade, and both of them were learning to read. They were very advanced. They did great. They did awesome. And the teachers were phenomenal. The whole staff was phenomenal. And so I just figured, okay, like that is what public school is. Like, I love it. Like, I don't get what the big complaint is, you know? And that school specifically was, they just taught academics. Like, I never felt in any way that they were teaching things that were contradictory to my Catholic faith, okay? That is definitely where I would draw the line, is if they are teaching something that is contradictory to the Catholic faith. So that was, and then the next year we moved, and we moved to Virginia. I'm not going to tell you where because I want to stay private of where we live, but pretty much our school district was said to be like one of the top in the countries, like you can't go wrong with any school in this district. You know, it was just, had all the highest ratings, marks, all of that. And I was like, okay, you know, like, so we move in and we just thought, okay, public school, you know, and so we move in and it was the summer and I started like meeting our neighbors. They've all been so sweet to us. And so I started asking like, okay, like, so how are the schools, you know? And everybody I asked they're like, oh yeah, they're okay. Like, it was like a very weird, like, okay, I feel like everybody knows something I don't know type of thing, you know? Have you ever been in that situation where you're like, there's bad news, but no one wants to say it? Like, that's exactly how I felt. So, still enrolled my children and they went to school and it was horrible. It was so bad on every single level. The teachers were actually good. Like, I thought the teachers were very sweet, very good teachers. But the curriculum that they had to teach was pretty bad. Like, our kids, they were in for 1 year. Actually, Thomas was only in half a year because he switched to Catholic school. He fell way behind in that half of a year. And he used to be advanced at his old school. Like, and his old school was awesome. So Jacob, the next year, had a lot of catching up to do as well. And he said that the kids in that class, they were learning stuff that he knew from like preschool. Like, they were still learning the alphabet, you know, letters, all of those like very basic things. And I was like, that's kind of weird, you know? And yes, it was just like, that was bizarre. Especially since they had such a high rating, like such a good school system, it didn't make sense. So what actually changed my mind on everything was Thomas, who was in 2nd grade before he switched schools, sent home a letter, the school did, asking for permission to talk to our children about, there were like a list of things that they wanted permission to talk to our children about. And it was very, very vague what they wanted to talk to our children about, which was a total red flag. If your school ever does that, like, that is a huge red flag. And so it had different things, like they wanted to talk about the family unit. They wanted to talk about just things like that, like just very vague. And so I was like, that's not any of their place to talk about with my children. And so it's like, you know what, maybe if I go and I like listen to what they have to say, if I can be there in the class with Thomas as they're like teaching it, then maybe if they're like misleading or they say something that is not what we in the Catholic faith believe, then I can talk to him about that, right? So I called the teacher and I said, hi, like, yeah, I got this letter. Like, I'm just curious, can I be there and listen to what you guys have to say? And she said, no parents are allowed to be here while we discuss these things, you know, with the class. And I was like, okay, why is that? Like, hello, this is my child, right? And she said, well, you know, if there's things that the students want to talk about and they don't feel comfortable with family members. And I was like, okay, all right. I said, well, can I have maybe a form telling me what bullet points you're going to be talking about with my child? And she said, I'll see what I can do. And so I never heard back from her. And I showed my husband the letter and he was appalled. He was like, what? Like, and so, and the other part to that is, you know, if we didn't sign it, then it would look bad on our part too. Like, it would make us look suspicious in a way, right? Because we don't want our son to like go to this thing that's going to be good for him in their mind. But what they can do is they could totally indoctrinate my son with things that aren't Catholic, aren't okay in the Catholic faith, you know, like they could talk about how, you know, marriage is not just a man and a woman, but it's beyond that. Things that are not okay with my Catholic faith, and the world is trying to push that they are okay. And, you know, so I it was just very eye-opening to me and my husband. And so I prayed. I was like, God, like, what do we do, you know? And thankfully, I ended up calling the Catholic school they go to now. And I asked if they had any openings, and they did for Thomas. And that was a total miracle because it was like his first communion year and all of that. And so we switched him in right away. So he never got that class or anything like that. Jacob was still at that school. They didn't have any openings for Jacob. So he, you know, did the rest of the year, but they didn't talk about that stuff. Like, we never got a letter with Jacob. Otherwise, honestly, I probably would have homeschooled. Like, it was just so eye-opening to me. Like, they should be able to tell you specifically what they're talking to your child about. You as a parent have every right to know that. And the fact that they think that they can get away with that is mind-blowing to me. Like, we are our children's advocate. We are the ones who should know what they're teaching in the classes. And I'm just like, I was just baffled because like my, you know, like growing up, they did, I think it was in 5th grade, they taught sex ed classes, you know, and stuff in the public school. And my mom wrote a note saying, no, my daughter will not go, I'm not allowing my daughter to go to that. And that was fine. Like, the teachers had no problem with that. There was like a handful of us whose parents didn't want them talking to us about sex, you know? And so, and that will always, I don't feel like that's the school's place, unless it's theology of the body or something Catholic like that. I am totally fine with that. But if you're going to talk about these issues in the worldly way, not okay. I am never, ever okay with that. Especially my niece, who I think she is a junior in high school, she went through sex ed class or whatever, and she said it was horrific. They were very graphic about how, you know, different partners get together and what they do, and like our tax money is paying for that. Like, it just blows me away. Like, we as parents should be teaching those things to our children about sex, about, you know, all those things. Like, they should know about those things, but in the Catholic way. And theology of the body is a great, I'll link some, you know, if you're looking, how do I talk to my children about that? I will link it all below. Different, maybe even videos like on YouTube you can watch. But they're like, Pope John Paul II did a phenomenal job of writing about all those issues in theology of the body. It is a thick book, that thick, very dense, and he's brilliant. But so if you don't want to go that dense, there's Christopher West, who is phenomenal. He kind of makes it simple for people like me to understand, like, why the church believes what they believe, you know, and why we're not giving into the world and all of that. So I could go on and on about that, but I do not feel like that is the school's place to teach. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but where else are they going to learn it? People figure it out. Like, it's pretty, yeah, like, it should be the parents first and foremost, you know, and stuff. So anyway, I'm not gonna get into it. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it, but just very eye-opening. Your school should always be able to tell you what they are teaching. Another thing about public school is that I know so many people, and actually people have commented on the last video I did, that said that they worked for the public school system and they said they would never send their children to public school. That it was so bad what they were teaching, that they were teaching things that they didn't agree with, like with being Catholic and all of that. So that to me spoke to me so much, that Catholics are saying that they would never send their children who are in the education system. So keep that in mind too. Like, there are, like, this is a huge problem. It is way, way too big. And if you don't know what to do, like maybe you don't have a Catholic school, and you know, just pray, ask God to help you, because here's the thing, God wants you to succeed in your child getting to heaven as well. okay? Like God really does. So if we pray and we ask, and say you live in the middle of nowhere, both you and your husband work, like you have no other options, then, you know, in public school is the only option, then do public school and pray, because God might make something happen where the situation will change for you. You never know, and you have to believe in miracles, and that is definitely one of those miracle moments. So homeschooling, I will say I never thought I would homeschool, never thought I would. And that's not because I'm not patient enough with my kids, or, you know, I want a clean house. Like when I did the other video saying I didn't want to ever homeschool, it wasn't because of the reasons people were saying that I'd rather do YouTube or, you know, all these things. Like, no, I would, if I had the ability to homeschool better, or like homeschool, I would do it. Like I love that people homeschool their children, because I think that some mothers are gifted in that. I know, especially now homeschooling my kindergarten and preschool, that I am not equipped to do it. Like I know that a lot of people are gonna like give me a hard time and be like, no one feels like they're equipped to do it. Like, no, I really just don't know how to teach phonics. I don't know how to do these really simple things. Like I know it, like I know how to read, I know how to, you know, like, but I don't know how to help it click with my children. And I know that teachers, you know, Catholic teachers have gone to school for that. So I feel much more comfortable with my children going to a teacher who is educated in that. So if you feel like me and you're like not equipped to homeschool, I get it. But I would say that if you can't send your children to a good Catholic school, and the reason I say good Catholic schools, not all Catholic schools are the same. I tell you, they are not the same. Some of them are only Catholic by name, and you really have to do your research to know what schools are actually Catholic. Do they go to Mass? I would say once a week. Do they pray the rosary, like ever? Do they teach, they should all be teaching theology, but are they teaching the theology correctly? Or are they like putting in what they want the Catholic Church to be teaching? That does happen. That happens quite often. So be sure, be your child's advocate if you do send your children to Catholic school. Our school is awesome. They have a adoration club. Like when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is probably a good Catholic school. They go to church, they do the rosary, they all have theology classes. Their theology is in line with the Catholic Church. So those are things you want to look at. Both my sons, night and day, the two schools that they, you know, the public schools they went to, the public schools, their education fell way behind, but it was kind of eye-opening that education is not really their main concern anymore. And that was very apparent to me, like when my kids went to this other school, that it's more like they want to teach. They have an agenda of teaching what they want to teach, and it's not always in line with the faith. So for that reason, I will never ever put my children in public schools again. Now I know that not everybody can do that. I understand that, and we as parents have to teach the best, or, you know, do the best that we can for our children. But I will, you know, if we move, I think in a year, and if we move to a place where there's not a good Catholic school, not just a Catholic school, like that's not good enough for me. It has to be a good Catholic school. If there's a place where there's no Catholic school or not a good Catholic school, I will homeschool them. And I might not be the best teacher, but it's better than the alternative. You know what I mean? Like their soul is the most important part, not academics. I know the world tells you academics is the most important thing in the entire world. No, it is not. It is important. Like you should know how to read and all of these things, yes. But it is not more important than your eternal soul, okay? Like that is the most important part of your child. My views are so different now. Like it is not, if you're looking at me and you're like, I turned out fine, I went to public school, I hear you. That's exactly how I felt. I truly did. And it is not the same school that you and I grew up in. It is just within 2 years, it has changed so much. And what they can get away with teaching our children is beyond me. I don't know how my tax money pays for that. It infuriates me that I have to pay for that. But ultimately, you are your children's best teacher. Even if they go to a Catholic school, you at home should be teaching the Catholic faith. That is our job as parents. And yes, CCD is great, yes, Catholic schools, but we should ultimately be teaching them as well the Catholic faith. And I have lots of videos about that. I can link them down below if you're curious. But anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, I will see you all later. God bless. Bye.